Hello, everyone. Perfect timing. Got the tech working this time, but as you can hear outside, sort of a petrol gardening equipment, which is always good fun. But we'll carry on anyway. Yeah, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. And hopefully, it's not too loud in the background. Hopefully, you can still hear me okay. But today, as you can see, what we have is we have a little bit of doing a little bit of work on. Let me just move this over a little bit. It's kind of a bit too big right now. Let me just pull this across. Just setting up my screen a little bit better. it's like a comedy show. This. It's been beautifully quiet here, no noise whatsoever, and then bang on 2 o'clock. Shouldn't last very long. Let's just put it that way. So where I'm at with this rig is we're basically at the point of. Oops. We're at the point of I've done the mouths and things like that, and I'm now just. Let me zoom in and show you. You might look a little bit different from the last time I was working on it, but what I've got here is some mouth shapes. So just cycle through. You can see how this is working. There's a couple of little tweaks in here, but I basically did a rough version, and the way this is working is with a nice, like, let me show you the breakdown of everything. So we have an outline on the overlay, and then we have the line for the teeth, and then we have the tongue, and then we have this bit, and importantly, there's this extra little bit there, which that's being used to mask out the teeth and the tongue. So that's important that that's in there. It's not a big deal to do. I don't need to do anything fancier to make it work. If we click on the mouth and we go inside, you'll see there's the overlay, which is for the line. The underlay is for the inside. And there's the split. Right now, there's no deformer on this. I'm going to put a deformer there's going to be a deformer for each one of these mouths to allow the person, whoever's using it, to deform what's inside and what's on the outside a little bit with an envelope deformer. I did look at 2-point constraints. If you remember the last one, I quickly chucked them on. It was kind of squashing a bit too much. I could put in, I could affect it. I could use transformation limits. I could do lots of fancy things there if I wanted to. But that is going to be extremely, it's just going to be overkill. It's going to be more than we need. And so an envelope deformer will do the job nicely. I'm only looking for a little bit of movement on the mouths, really, because I want to get the balance right between an animator being able to easily redraw one. Yeah, so they just draw the line in there. The fill is probably the most complicated bit, which they do afterwards with this line and so on. And they can copy the tongue and teeth over. So it's quite an easy one after that. What I'll need to do on this mouth to make it work, and I'm going to do one of them to show you, is I need to use a weighted deformer. But first of all, let's start the deformer process, because you're going to need to know how to do it. So I could add, because the way how I've separated out the mouth, so I've got the filters. This has got everything on it, this mouth. For the line, let me go to the frame here. The line, the fill, or the inside, the teeth, and the tongue. I could put a deformer on the tongue. Don't really want to do that, to be honest, but if I needed to, I could, because it's been separated out. And the reason how it's been separated, or how I've done it, is I've copied and pasted this drawing, and then in the settings, in the drawing, I've turned off everything except the line art. So that's the same as using a filter, but it's just allows you to put a peg on top of it, which allows us to move we probably won't want to move the teeth because they should stay fixed because it's upper jaw and into the skull, but we can just do quick adjustments that way. So if needed to, could do that. Importantly, we can move the tongue around if we need to pose it for whatever reason, close-up lip sync, something that's more nuanced and needs more work into it. And it does allow us to put that deformer in between, yet it's still all linked within this drawing. To put a deformer on this, which is going to affect the overlay and the underlay because they're being used through filters, what we can quickly do is just, let's go to frame 1, bring up our tool properties. We're going to choose envelope mode, make sure the drawing is selected, and I'm just going to keep it dead simple, click and drag. Click and drag. Importantly, make sure you have everything selected that you need. Like if you accidentally click, it's, be careful because you can accidentally add loads of points. And if you really mess it up, it is always best to start again. Don't worry about this piece going over here because when we click the transform tool, it goes back to something much more usable. That is hidden with Shift C or this little single silvery gray tram track line. And to show it again, we click on an object and you can press on the rigging toolbar, show deformers. I've also got a shortcut set up for that. So that deformer is great. We've got a deformer there. But then when we go to the next drawing, it's still the same deformer, and I want a different one for each one. I'm going to show you inside the deformer group. I generally always rename these def, just because they're much shorter and they fit in neatly. So inside this deformer group now, as it is, we've got our multi-port in and out. So this is like the in and out of the inside the group. We can see how deep we are because along the bottom of the node view, we can go outside and back inside. But it's basically the rigging or the deformers, the nodes, but ungrouped. As soon as we add a second one, it will group them together and it will call them transformations, and there'll be transformation groups. Okay. How do we add a second one? Well, I'm on my second drawing now. So this is drawing 1. This is drawing 2. Well, actually, they're not named. Don't think they're named like that. They're kind of randomly named at the moment. But actually, let's name it correctly before we go any further. So let's just check. Here's the mouth. Press the letter O to jump to it. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, they are named. I've not finished all these off. They're all named correctly. The last one is reference for my initial drawing. If, for example, you have something named, so let's press Command or Control D and name this 33. That drawing is called 33. Now, if we had loads of drawings that you've drawn out of sequence and you want to rename them according to the order they're in on the timeline, like 1, 2, 3 on frame 1, 2, 3, often this happens with traditional animation when you draw things and you want to label them according to the frame they're on because of the timing, or for loads of elements like hands and normally mouth or something like that. You can very quickly do it via the X sheet. So if you go to the X sheet, you can bring it up with the plus icon, press the letter O. There we go. Where's our mouth? And then we can select on mouth and just go down to, 20, and right click, drawings, rename by frame. It won't do anything other than it will change 3 because that was the 33. Okay, so it can change loads at the click of a button. Basically, that's a handy one to do. So they're named accordingly. Now we want to add a new deformer. On the rigging toolbar, it's literally just create new deformation chain, this little button here, and it will get rid of your deformer. But inside our group, you notice that is now grouped. Now when we click our rigging tool, still got the envelope mode selected. I'm going to go this way around because it makes more sense. I'm trying to think whether I want to put one here. Basically, I don't want people using this or me, but anybody who uses it, I don't want them to do lots of nuanced stuff. I really want to encourage them to draw, holding down Alt or Option here to constrain it. So I want them to draw new shapes, basically, because it's not really meant for really nuanced stuff because there's line in here and this shading here. It's just meant for a little bit wiggling around, really. So I could put more deformer points, but obviously it gives the animators more control. And do we want to give them more controls to do that? Or do we want to kind of like gradually push them towards drawing something new if it's being pushed a long way? So you can, as a rigger, you can sort of influence the way something is used by the way you design it. You can see it's made a lovely group 1, transformation 1, group 2, transformation 2. And inside here, there's our multi-port again. So it's just grouped those things that we saw earlier in one, group them together. And it looks all nice and neat from the outside. Importantly, when I click anywhere on the mouth and switch, oops, wrong one. Let's just check. Sorry, I pressed the toggle drawing rather than the frame. So frame 1, correct. Frame 2, aha. Now frame 2 hasn't got the right transformation on it. And we can fix that if we want to. Let me show you the instant fix. I know we were going to do the arms and things, but this is really important. So up here we have this transformation 1, and we can set it to transformation 2, which should be, it's a bit odd how it's dropped. That should be there. When it does random things like that, it can sometimes mean it's about to crash and you should save. Right, let's just choose. That looks okay. Cool. But you see how, so we had to select that and tell it what we wanted it to do. Select the drawing, transformation 2. Now, if you think that the association is just on one drawing isn't correct, there's this button, associate parent transformation switch with the selected element. Very wordy. But if you don't see this button, which I don't think you do by default, right click on this rigging toolbar, customize, and then you'll find it in here, and you can click on it, press the little arrow to send it over to your toolbar and click apply. So that's all good. But what we can also do is we can make sure inside the deformer group via this transformation switch, we can make sure things are the transformations or the deformations are associated with the right drawing. So if we click on this yellow box, you can see transformation 1 is associated with everything except 2 and 3. So we're going to have it just associate with frame 1, and transformation 2 just associate with 2. Close. So now what happens is when I switch the drawing, 3, it disappears. Okay, so that's the transformation switch box and settings is the preferred way to make sure things associate correctly, but you can click that button up there if needs be. So that's how you would go through, and you could add as many deformers as you wanted. Let's give ourselves this example. Okay, so we are on, oops, keep switching the drawing by accident. Let's do this one. Let's add a deformer to here. And this is, you see automatically it went to transformation 3 at the top. I'm going to have to finish it off. Now this one I'm doing because I want to show you how this will be horrible on the inside, but how we can fix it. So transform tool, you see how, oh, it's kind of shearing a little bit there. If we move this around, yuck. So what can we do to make this look better? If we pull this down, for example, how do we make it look better in there? I think it's probably going to look worse. And we could link these back up as well, by the way. You could, if you click here and then hold down Alt or Option, it's going to allow you to link it back around again, which might produce better results on this side. This is obviously skin colored, but it's just because it's selected. So let's have a look at that. See how that's not really doing anything? This is a good test. So let's chuck in a weighted deformer. Ooh, that's not what we wanted. Something was selected and it chucked it under something else. Weighted deform, and then we have to pull in, that's the deformation, parent transformation. So it tells you what they are when you plug them in. Deformation, there we go. So that's looking better. You know, it's still, let's just render it. Not that pixel level, please. But anyway, it's looking better than it was. Let me just turn this off. You can see how there it was, jaggy, and that's it, much better. Let's just reset that. So I've selected the deform group, reset. So it gives us more range, and that weighted deformer, you shouldn't use too many of these if you can avoid it, like try and not go crazy with them, but they're really handy because they smooth things out is the simple answer. So let's just have a look. This one here, this line could be very problematic. You got to be careful. You see, look how it's pulling up here. But we are looking for literally to be able to give it a little bit of cushioning. I'd be tempted to put another deformer point in there, but anyway, for the example of what we're doing here, this is perfect. Okay, so that's how I would go through. I know if you watched the last one of these I did, I said if you wanted to for homework, you could kind of play with this and try and set up your deformers. And then the eyes, let me just go through how these work now. So I've just got a blink system with no deformers on. And then I've got at the end eyes with eyelids with deformers on. Because then it kind of gives people the quick option. And these are all linked. It makes it nice and easy to just select. There we go. There's a deformer. And let's just turn this on. I can't remember what I've done here. Ah, cool. Yeah, so they appear when you change the drawing, which is quick and easy to do. And you can still manipulate them because we have separated them out. We've given them deformer. Hopefully the deformer association is just with, yep, drawing 7. So that's good. And we've got pegs on those eyelids when they appear. Eyebrows, super simple. We have this hat, which has a auto shadow function. I think this is just, I did this with just, I just drew a cap shadow. Where is it? There it is. And it has a blur and a blending mode set to it. So when you render this, kind of looks a little bit nicer. The blending mode is color burn. So that kind of like makes it look a little bit professional. I did do it on the neck here as well, although that wasn't working so well. I'll fix that later. Then we've got some earrings here. These earrings are separated into line art, color art going in front and behind the ear. So let's just have a look at that. And that allows me to use one deformer for both of them, but affect it all in one go. Yeah, so everything's kind of got deformers on. That is odd. Where has that been put? Oops. Those deformers are out of place on the ears, so I'll have to adjust them. But as we are, it's pretty cool. So we've got a lot of stuff in there to work with. Now, what I wanted to do today was play with, back inside this. By the way, you notice the character is just called 3 now. Simplified. And let's just pull up. This is the inside of the rig. So right now it's just the head. This is the bit which is the neck shadow with an applied transformation, applied peg transformation. I'm probably going to get rid of that because it's more faffy in 3D than just having a color shape shadow, and I can reuse this because at the moment I have to push it through a flattening composite and then shadow and head. So we'll probably push it through exactly the same, just how this cap shadow is going through. I'll invert the cutter so it appears on the outside, and I'll push that cap shadow down there, and then we'll process the blending and the blur all in one, and then you can split them out. It's quite a cool way of doing stuff. So we've got the body here, and this is the next thing. But I wanted to take a moment, because I've rattled through that to start with, to say hello to people. If anybody's around on the chat and wants to pop in and hello, welcome. And if you are, I said today we're going to use this as a bit of a, because I'm not doing the co-work Wednesdays tomorrow, and it's first time back after a couple of weeks for various internet issues and other issues and stuff just kind of getting in the way in the middle of the day. Yeah, maybe it'll take a little while to build up some momentum. So what we're going to do is amalgamate the two today. So we're doing like you can co-work and you can just use it as a chunk of time. We've got 40 minutes until the end of this session. So nice sort of Pomodoro-esque amount of time that you can just crack on with something, and you can watch me do some rigging stuff in the background. I'm going to try and live remember how to do the weighted curve stuff on the body and link it to the neck. I'm trying to think out loud if that is a good idea. So when you move the top of the body, it moves the neck around, but I don't want it to inherit the rotation. So I might have to use a point kinematic output, which is something that is relatively new in Toon Boom, but not new enough that it's like not used in rigs, but new enough that not many studios use it massively. Just because it's people like stuff that just works easy peasy. And then with the arms, I'm going to try and do this like little IK system where we can move using constraints. So we can move the wrist, the elbow. Dog loves me talking, finds it super boring, so it falls asleep. Oh, hello, everybody. Alex, Kyle, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, so yeah, dog snoring in the background because he finds me talking about rigging tremendously boring or soothing. Choose what you will. Okay, so what I'm going to do now then is I'm going to just chuck a little body in here. I'm not going to worry too much about it and what it looks like for now because I just want it something to test out, and then I'll maybe refine the shape. So I do that a lot when I'm testing rigging ideas out. I'll put basic shapes in off the design, and then I'll try and figure it out first without the details, and then I'll put the details in after because it's easy to add the drawings. Hey Dan, all right. Cool. Okay, so let's chuck this in. Let's throw in a. We're just going to put in a quick. I'm going to use green. It's a bit garish, but it will do the job. Okay. And let us. Okay, so just going to throw this. I'm holding down Alt there to quickly chuck these corners out. Okay. That'll do for now. And then let's put the pivot somewhere around here. Nice. Then let's see if we can remember how we do this. So we've got weighted curve. That must be it. I am going to have to bring up some reference for this. I cannot remember. So Toon Boom's has they have their like, if you look through their documentation, like any help documentation, it's good for certain stuff, the new bits. My only complaint sometimes is that things like weighted deformers and weighted curves are new things. They just write the text version. I think it's when they've written the information for the new release, and it's been written by like programmers exactly what it does, but you kind of need a visual, and they haven't really done visuals in the more recent things they've released. Some of them are really useful, but you really need a visual, which is why everybody ends up on YouTube looking for stuff. But it's super niche, so that's why I'm trying to do things about it where I can. But there's other people who demo stuff. Z-Bird Brain, all one word. She works for Toon Boom, and she used to at least. But Mariev Lysa, I think her name is. But she basically kind of is the stopgap in between. She does these kind of release videos sometimes where she'll talk about things and go through them, but they are not like super concise sometimes. So she started to do some more concise bits, but it's sometimes you just want to find like, how do I do this thing? And I'm going to try and show you some bits. So let's have a look. Weighted curve. Because it's Harmony 22, this weighted curve came out. So it's a couple of years back now. Right. I'm just looking. This one does actually have visuals. So I take it all back, Harmony. But I think Harmony 22 was the last time they did visual guide. So Harmony, I think it went 22, 24. Don't think Harmony 23 was ever released, if I remember rightly. And then 25 this year. Right, okay, I've got it. Remember. Perfect. Okay, so let's throw in this weighted curve. We need the weighted deform because that's how these things work. And let's put in, oh yeah, so these things operate without the need for you to put in a deformer. So you can just use pegs. It's pretty wild, isn't it? There's the deformer. You always need, well, I thought you always needed, yeah, parent transformation. On this demo, it says you don't need it. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, I'm going to throw some pegs in here. I'm just going to throw 4 in. Sounds a lot, but it's because one of them acts as like the point, one of them acts as the handle to change the curve. So hold down Alt or Option, click them all in. Shift Alt and Option to click them all up. Does that work? Yeah, there we go. Sometimes I am impressed that I remember things that is just kind of a bit of a guess. That's like deep-seated information nowadays. For some reason, it's telling me to pull that down there. I don't think that's true. Let's try this. Okay, so to see this weighted curve, we have to enable. Oops. Is that right? Who knows? I want to set this up. Right, okay. Let's give it a go. Let's put this one up here. Okay. It's because these aren't in the right place. That's why we couldn't see it. So you see how it's creating this like curve? It's where the pivot positions are, right? So it's really like ambiguous, this method, but it does work quite well. It just seems like really shoehorned in, but somebody's been very clever about how they've put this into the software because they haven't created anything new. They're using pegs that people already know how to use. And it's great because instead of adding the weight of a deformer, it has this different way of processing things. You just have this weighted deform. And then we had to do that show control, which is Control F11, Command F11. And now what we can do is if we click one of these pegs, we can which is pretty cool. I think it works nice. Let's just adjust. So we don't have to go into the deformer to change it. We just need to change the rotation point. And you can adjust this very quickly. It's not as fiddly as doing deformers. You can add as many pegs as you want. And the cool thing about pegs is that you can easily select both at once. Yeah. So like you imagine, this has got a weighted deformer on it. If I go into my drawing and add some more detail, because I'm a savage and I want to make it hard work for myself, let's just do this. Oops, let's not do that. Looks terrible. Stencil brush. Stencil brush is cool, by the way, if you've never used it. It's just like repaint brush, but it also has the overlay, so it kind of allows you to do both. So checked, plaid, I don't know how you say it in American, but I'm getting a little bit Palestinian with my colors there. Nothing wrong with that, but don't want to make this political, even though, let's be honest, we don't want to think about that right now because it's horrible. Right, okay, so here we go. Let's select these 2 pegs. So you look how that pattern is holding so nicely, and that is something that would have not been very easy to do with previous deformers. The weighted deformers help that because it allows it, but then you wouldn't have been able to have, for example, a deformer go all the way around the shape, which we can still do, and also one through the center. You could use this deformer on deformer, which was a script, which was not as stable. So we are now kind of creating a more robust system. Yeah. So let's chuck a little. I'm going to see if I can use. I don't think it. No, it won't allow me to do that. I was going to use an envelope creator, but I don't think that's going to play nice with my shape. I think this might be not a great way to do this because I'm creating it halfway through. I think it's better to create this probably first. But see how we go. There's my accidental click. Right, so I should, let's put them all there. Yeah, you see how that's not very nice. Let's just group them together. There's a deformer group. So that's going to work. And then this is still going to work. No, it's not. And as such, I'm going to scrap that for now. Let's just take this off. Connect it up to there. Drawing, animation, envelope creator, create envelope. Let's go for 6. Create envelope. Ta-da. That's not so bad. And then I've forgotten how way to deform. I'm an absolute nightmare with the brain today. Let's just see how that connection works. It's just off to the side. So that I think we can use them, but combining deformations. This is what we're after. Yikes, that looks horrific. I'm looking at a diagram and it's not appealing. Okay, so hello, Nick. Welcome, everybody. Let's see. Let's see if we can do this. No. I'm going to leave that out for now because it's not needed for what we're trying to do. Cool. All right. So we've got our pegs in here. And we can make a lovely little kind of something that moves easily with these pegs. What we can do to make them easy to select is we can use the OGL controllers. You will have to, I'm going to change this to just OGL, and put it into, so you have to kind of connect it up. Oh, hang on a sec. Let me just give that another peg. So the cool thing about this is that you can have one central peg to control both those points. So the equivalent of controlling 2 deformer points with one thing. And then we'll pop this down here, put it into setup mode, and then let's change the color to something like this. Okay, setup mode allows us to pop that here, turn that off, close, and where is it? Can't see it. I made it to, oh, is it because it's at the back? Oh yeah, okay. I wonder if I can keep it there, keep it neat, and just pop it forward in Z. Yes, I can. 0.1. Wicked. All right, so let's lower that alpha right down. You don't have to have things like super bright and visible. They can work very nicely on a low alpha. Is that setup mode? Make sure that's off. So now we don't even need to turn the show controls on. We can just do wicked stuff like that. You could go crazy with these pegs. You could have a box around them. Although if you're using a box, I would be thinking about using maybe the shape aware deformation. It's a bit not very accurate. It's kind of hard to use sometimes, but It's worth considering. So now Toon Boom has easily doubled its options in terms of deforming things. So yeah, definitely something to think about. So we've got this cool body. Now let's see if we can link. I want to link that to the neck. So let me just whack that up there a second. Pull this body right up here. I do find this new methods of rigging tend to makes your rigs very vertical because we need lots of space for things. So I'm going to do what's called a point kinematic output, PKO, as I call it. And this thing, PKO. Right, so we've got 1 point sampling there, yeah? So 1 point will just follow a point, and 2 point will follow the point plus rotation. So if we wanted it to follow rotation, we'd have to change it in there. This neck, let me think about this. Yes, so we've got transformation out. I think it's this one. Blimey, I don't remember. And then there we go. Let's set this one up. Does it have a setup mode in it? No. So just use show control to move that. Cool. Let's just move this thing around. There we go. The neck is moving with it. And if we rotate this, oh, it still rotates. Okay, so if we didn't want it to rotate, that's odd. Okay, so if we turn on 2 point sampling, see what it's going to do. Let's see. See how it's given me this handle. So this is like monitoring how much it rotates. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. I could probably reduce it by moving it up. Let's try that. No, it's not really going to do anything because it's on a single plane. So we'll keep it to 1. Always reduce the information if we don't need it. So what we can do is put in a transformation limit, translim. And then we can make the rotation 0. And then you can see by clicking these limited transform, forced transform, there's the switch. So we'll just chuck in that there on the limited transform. I might just pull that a little higher to make our life a little bit easier. Create a beautiful waterfall of pegs. Okay, so now when we click this peg, oh, it looks horrible though. Yeah, not the effect I want. So to be honest, we're probably going to be better off just leaving it as it is. And then we can always adjust. It's just we have to work in this kind of like outward sort of method. I mean, you could still move it side to side. You just couldn't do the rotation. So it probably actually isn't too bad. We would need to put in a little selector for there. And then the cool thing is this now, this peg becomes the, if we want to use the correct name, clavicle. Clavicle, is that how you spell it? But I think I'm going to use a neck base, because if you use something like clavicle and then somebody, 1, doesn't know the meaning of the word, or 2 is English is a second language, or they're translating, it can get a little confusing. So it's best to use like the most obvious terminology a lot of the time. That is bizarre. Oh, that's dropped. That's my issue with my, let me just get rid of that. I'm looking in the wrong place. It's this one. Take that out of there for now. We'll fix that in a bit. yeah, so we've got our neck base. And this is, we could also link our arms up to this. So we're going to try in the time we have left and do a little arm. This is, again, going to be challenging my brain to remember. First of all, though, we'll chuck a little save in. Okay, so with the arms, let's pop them here. So Control or Command R, and we're going to call this arm upper. Just return arm lower. So this thing I've just shown you there makes things so much easier than they were. Because you kind of get that like almost pin puppet tooly feel. Toon Boom always was very like FK focused, and now with that, it did have kind of an IK sort of system in there, but it wasn't very robust, and now it actually is good. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what the uptake is. At least what I've seen, people weren't using it. The start of when 25 was released, this Annecy just gone this summer, not many people were really using it. So I'm just creating a quick structure for my arm. Again, this is something you could easily template. You can have this blank template inside. You could call this character or this comp, arm comp. These can be, I mean, you can set pivots for them if you want to, roughly in place. It's not going to make a blind bit of difference because it's not going to be that helpful because the positioning is always going to be different. But arm master, we can chuck these in here. And then you could copy all these blanks. There's no drawings on them, so they won't inherit any of the palettes, or they shouldn't do. And then I can chuck it into my Harmony Premium library. Just paste it in there, call it arm template. And then if you want to edit it, you just go edit template. In Harmony 25, they released the optimize option, where you can go up to here and optimize the palettes, and it will get rid of, see all these palettes it's brought in, which we didn't want. Select all, delete. Arm templates, what is that? Empty palette list, delete. Cool, so then if we bring up color, shouldn't have anything, even if I select a drawing. Yeah, nothing in there. Now when we save, it's going to give us a warning because it's an action template, which means it can hold animation. Are you all cool with that? See how it's got that green outline? That just means it is a template mode. Great, okay, so hopefully you saw that on screen because it should have been doing those bits. So now we're just going to throw in we'll do it as side out sort of arm. And this one is on the arm upper. So let's just do it here for clarity. Skin fill on the arm lower. Oh, that's not what we wanted. And then hand, just going to be this nice little ellipse blob. Wonderful. Now we need to make sure the pivots are correct on these because that is going to influence how things move a touch. Great. Now let me see if I can remember how all this stuff is going to work. Oh, actually, we want that to go up to this point kinematic output. Let's see if we can. Does that follow nice then if we do that? Oh, it's annoying how I've put the pivot for that right over. So we need to move that pivot. Yeah, cool. That works good. So that obviously would be a pain if you wanted to be able to move those things separately. You probably end up having a different rig if you wanted the arm to be in place, like the hand against a wall as the body moves around or something. Right, let's see if I can remember. I am going to have to bring up my little reference. Did have this earlier on, so that's cool. So I was doing this like mutant eyeball eye that's kind of like just attached to a leg, and I had it working nice. Let's see if we can recreate. Okay, so we have the hand. We've got just under 15 minutes. So we're going to use the 2-point constraint, renamed very quickly to TPC, and we're going to have the volume modifier set to 0 because we don't want that's the thing that always looked rubbish when you first start using constraints, is that it squashes and stretches and kind of skews a bit weird. We're going to keep the volume max and the volume minimum to 100. So basically it doesn't change the volume and it doesn't modify the volume, yeah? And I think, ignore 3D transform as well. I think that's the settings I had. Cool, wicked. So this one, now, we can pop that one above the, what did I put it over? Yes, okay. That's over here. Copy, paste, oops. Just give that a go. We are going to use this one in a minute as well, I think. That needs to go up to... Oh, I had an elbow. So I'll need to create a... Nothing like a car alarm. Getting all the different noises today. Hope you're enjoying it. Let's chuck this one up to here. And then we will quickly grab the color. Oh, let's do it in the... That's all okay. There is a tool to autofill in the tool properties, but I've not got it turned on. Set the pivot in the middle. Cool. And then we had this going to here, this going to here. So you see how that's important because it's kind of like the control. And then above that, the hand is... I think that goes here. And that goes on top of there. And then what was that? Oh, we had like another peg. And this thing goes to here. I don't believe... No, that one came from the hand. Yeah, because we have this lovely little pattern. And that doesn't go there. And we have another peg, which is like the master for all of it. So it's actually quite easy to, once you remember this, what it looks like, it looks quite, pretty and easy to understand. There was I believe there was a transformation limit in there as well. So we'll chuck that in. Sorry, Alex, you said something, you thought something was outside your window. Oh, the car alarm. Right, I see. Yeah, playing tricks with everybody. Cool. Right, so let's just move this. Can I move this elbow? Because it's irking me how it's not bang on the center. Okay, so if we click this elbow, we should, hey, there we go. Bit of magic for you. Lower arm, aha. So this is probably what's going to have to happen, because I think if I move the hand, that's going to work. Oh, it didn't look very nice though there. Oh yeah, that's okay. You see how it's skewing? That's cool because we can't really avoid that. It's gonna, not sure about the artwork there. What's going on here? Skew is off. Volume modify. Transform. We'll leave it as it is for now. I'm a little bit confused with that one. Lord knows what that peg is doing. I guess that would be to do individual tweaks. You'd need those in there. Yeah, because this, yeah, exactly. That's what it's for. So this is, the cool thing about this is it allows us to have an IK system. So we can kind of go, okay, the arm is attached to here, and then this arm is here. And you can, it's stretchy at the moment, right? So I need to volume max, volume minimum, distance max 100, distance minimum 0. So if you set the distance minimums and maximums, it stops you going past the size of the arm. See how that is staying in place? Which is quite cool to stop people going off model. It's not so good if it's really cartoony. That skewing is annoying. I'll have to figure that one out. But let's just throw in distance max in here. I don't know if I actually like that because it's detaching the hand. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit better. But what's cool is that we can sort of figure this thing out. Now, there is a downside to this. It looks really nice, and it's good for kind of like having the hand set there, and then you move the body around and everything else. Wicked. Can do the robot with it. But one of the cool things about Toon Boom's sort of like standard way of working, and maybe why the adoption hasn't been like massively huge in the uptake, is because when you tween something in a FK hierarchy, it will give you some in-betweens, even computery ones as a guess, that will be actually quite decent. Whereas if you have this system, it will just go like quickest way there. So you get this weird merge and shortening of the arms because it doesn't respect the length of things because you've by design removed that option. So it's difficult to say. Like the constraint system sounds like it by nature constrains you, but actually this one is all over the place. It's like jelly. So there's no bone system really in it. It's just how things are linked together. I think, like for me, if you were to tween from here to here, it will just go like that. But if it was an FK system, it will go even in its tweening, but it will bend this arm and keep the length of the forearm. So maybe it's something that you can offer. I don't know. It's the different rigs for different designs, yeah. But this is quite a cool system. It's quite light, and the fact. Let's see if this works. I click here. Yeah, so we can kind of go whoop, over here, and then you'd have to click the elbow and move that out. And then, yeah, obviously you can with this Alt or Option and down. You can bump things forward in Z depth. Where's the arm lower? So maybe, yeah, you could have a peg on here as well. It would just give you the option to just tweak things a little bit. So those sub pegs are useful. I think that's fun. I think it's great. So hopefully that's been useful to you. That was quite a neat little finish off. I'm going to save that. And so what I'm going to do for the next one is I'm going to recreate this, tidy it up a little bit. like a sailor sort of advert, Second World War propaganda. But yeah, it's quite fun to be able to deform the body and have everything else stay in place. Whereas the FK system, you could do it with the deformers, but it would be pretty messy and take longer than that than just moving something around. And it's keeping the volume quite well, you know. So you could obviously find a way of having. I still need to figure out how to have a deformer around here at the same time. I'm kind of blanking on how I did it before, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. I'm just going to have to check to see if I can combine the two. So this is where we're up to with the rig. Hey, Cassim, how you doing? You missed some cool stuff, man. Hopefully, maybe you didn't miss it. Maybe you saw it. Maybe you know how to do this already. So this is our little rig so far. I'm going to finish off the arms, finish off the mouth shapes, figure out the deformer on the ear, which is wrong. Redo this little shadow under the neck. Probably do the patching in here, so where the top and the neck join. And yeah, basically I want to get to the point where the next thing is going to be the lower body and the legs. And I'll probably put a similar system into this. And then maybe we'll do something fun with the feet. And we can talk about how you would be able to like move the hips around and the knees will bob and stuff. So it's going to be a bit of a constraint rig, this one. It lends itself more to people having to know a bit more about that posing. You know, you can't use it like a mannequin. You can't pose it and move it around because you can really lose your form with these. So these are powerful rigs that are fast to use if you know the shape you're trying to get into. If not, they're quite unruly and they're just like mush on screen. So a bit more of a, I'd say, an advanced user or experienced user. So that's going to be the plan. And then we will do all this and chuck in some turnarounds. It's going to be quite a simple character to turn around. The head is probably the most complicated thing of all of it. It's one of the reasons as well why I'm not too fussed about. I mean, I could put a constraint, 2-point constraint on the head, just to show you how that works. You might see this quite a lot, but just checking I'm not going to totally mess all this up if I do this. Cool, let's try. Yeah, and then we'd have another peg here. It's because it's all connected up, so I need to connect that down. Put this up the top here, and then you would be able to get a little. It's kind of handy. It's just you can only really realistically do that. You know, see how much it's squashing things. It's good for like extremes or just like one frame here, one frame there to get a lot more energy into it. And you see how easy that is to chuck in there. And then I could make it so that the, you know, I don't know, there's a sort of a selector there that you can, an OGL control that we can use to do that. You just have to be careful how many controls you end up with on a character. And I've seen these rigs get so complicated that people do put like tons of controls, so they end up having a panel with a switch which turns them all on and turns them all off again. So maybe we can do that at the end of the rigging session. Okay, let me switch to webcam view. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was useful. I hope you got some work done as well if you're trying to do some bits and bobs. Like I say, there's no co-work session tomorrow. And yeah, feel free to send me your feedback, comments. And yeah, I'll see you all next week, I believe. Yeah, I should be back. Yeah, I'll be back next week and we'll crack on with this then. So yeah, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, bye.